Hi, art historians. So we are now moving forward into Europe's very intense interaction with these African nations, and we are taking a look at Module 6, the Art of Africa Part 2, as well as the Native North America Part 1. We are looking at Africa in the West, 6.01, African Art and European Primitivism. So this unit includes 6 core works and 3 supplemental works, and we are looking at a date range of about 1887 to 1914. And these pieces are all located in and around a lot of the areas that these European artists are taking a look at. So Gauguin painted a lot in Tahiti. Picasso took inspiration from Gabon and Cameroon masks that he encountered. Matisse was very inspired by Morocco, Brancusi by Gabon and the Congo, and Derain by the Ivory Coast and Gabon. So all of these are smaller scale painted works. So we have Gauguin's The Mango Trees of Martinique, as well as The Spirit of the Dead Watching. We have Derain's The Dance, Matisse's Blue Nude, Picasso's Les Demoiselles d'Avignon, and Brancusi's Little French Girl. Now, our supplemental works include Ricciot's The Dream, Kirchner's half-length portrait, and Shergill's self-portrait as a Tahitian. So, African art is incredibly diverse. It reflects the continent's numerous cultures, their languages, as well as their traditions. And many artworks are very deeply spiritual, as you have explored. They are used in rituals and ceremonies, and they're often used to communicate with ancestors or deities. So, as you have seen, artists are often using natural materials like wood, clay, metal, and textiles, and they're employing techniques that have been passed down through many, many generations. And so African art is usually serving a very functional purpose for masks or utensils or performances or something to honor a specific person. And so while they are doing all of that, they're also very aesthetically pleasing. Now, many pieces are very rich in symbolism. They convey social status, identity, cultural beliefs, and as you saw from our last unit, they are very crucial in telling storytelling, or in the process of storytelling. And this is often illustrating narratives and historical events as well. Modern artists tend to blend traditional elements with contemporary styles with the aim of addressing social issues as well as identity issues. So the term primitivism emerges in the late 19th and 20th century, and I personally have a huge problem with that term. So when I use it, it is in regards to the context of this era of art that is now coming out of Africa and being utilized as inspiration by Europe. But to me, the concept of primitivism today feels like it has a slight insulting undertone to it. I don't like what the word implies outside of this context, so please know that when I use it, it is with the purpose of aligning my vocabulary best to the historical context and time frame that we're discussing here. So when it did emerge, it absolutely coincided with European colonialism and the fascination with non-Western cultures. So the European artists often romanticized African art, and they viewed it as more authentic or pure compared to the industrialization of Western artwork. And so artists like Picasso, Matisse, and Braque, they drew their inspiration from African sculptures and masks and integrated these into their own work as elements. And so primitivism has been critiqued for the oversimplification and the appropriation of African cultures. They often strip them of their context and meaning, which totally sort of takes away the core value of the cultural and artistic expression that's happening. The portrayal of African art in Europe often leaned towards exoticism. It emphasized the differences and unfortunately reinforced stereotypes. And primitivism, clearly struggle with that word, it reflects a lot of colonial attitudes, unfortunately, where the Western artists viewed this non-Western artwork through a lens of superiority and misunderstanding. And this impact is still very strongly felt today. It raises a lot of questions about authenticity, representation, and cultural exchange in art, as well as the appropriateness of appropriation. And these points prove a very foundational understanding of the complexities surrounding African art and the European primitivism and their adoption of a lot of the images that they saw coming out of this continent. So you'll definitely see a lot of this kind of adoption and misunderstanding and, the reinforcing of these stereotypes. For example, in Picasso's work, we see these women in France, and they are shown with faces that are very, very mask-like. So you can see where he took his inspiration from those African masks. When we look at Gauguin's work, for example, he wanted to escape the hustle-bustle life of Europe and wanted to live a simpler life in Tahiti, only to find that life progresses the same way wherever you are. And though it feels very defeatist, it is a fact. We are born, we live, and we die. And that was unfortunately a very tough realization for him. So you'll start to see a little bit of those themes in his work. Moonbeam, you want to say hi? There he is. Every cat's joining us today. So, Mooney, we just talked about a little bit of Europe's interaction with Africa. What do you think? No thoughts. Anyway, folks, that about takes care of what I wanted to talk about. So I will check back in again for the second half of this module with unit number 2. Until then.